dollars by statute. Joining me right now, live via Zoom, is somebody who was involved in Johnny Depp's team. She was brought in as a consultant and an advisor. Famed attorney Kathleen Zellner is here with us, joining us. Kathleen, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited that you've agreed to do this, and we really appreciate it. Your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
I think that the jury absolutely reached the right verdict. I think it's hugely vindicating and exonerating and everything for Johnny. It's something, that he's really had to deal with, particularly since the UK verdict and, all the way back to the TRO being entered in 2016. So I think it's a great victory. It reassures me about how well juries work and why we can trust jurors to come to the right decision. I think the case boiled down to a contest of credibility. I think that Johnny had a wonderful trial team that was totally prepared for this. And, they performed even above expectation. They were just outstanding. But it's a great day for him.
I feel like, defamation, we've talked about this so many times on the air, especially when you're dealing with a public figure, is very difficult to prove because of the actual malice standard. But they did it. The jury evaluated all of the evidence. They watched Amber Heard's testimony. So your thoughts on that?
Well, I had always thought, and I really approached the case more as a criminal attorney, and Johnny had reached out to me just, a few months ago. I told him I was getting ready for a murder case, and then the murder case got continued, so I was able to, carry on conversations with him and sit through some of the depositions. But I really think it came down to credibility. I think her case failed, and looking at it as a criminal attorney, it failed on the forensic evidence. Those beatings and abuse that she described did not happen. I've been doing criminal cases for over 30 years, and the forensic evidence simply wasn't there. She just did not suffer the injuries. Forget about having witnesses. I can understand, that abuse victims don't have firsthand knowledge, witnesses present, but the evidence wasn't there. There just was not the forensic evidence to support what she was claiming. The second thing, because I've represented a lot of sexual abuse victims over the years, she wasn't afraid of him. And I think Camille Vasquez did a beautiful job of laying all that out, not only in the cross-examination, but in the closing. I mean, she wasn't afraid of him. She was, taunting him. She was very aggressive. And so her case just collapsed, and that falls at her feet. She just was not credible. That's why she lost.
I think it's really interesting that you point that out, and I've talked about this only briefly on the air. I've done stories. I've covered cases about sexual assault over the years. I've covered trials involving sexual assault, and these allegations that she made about the Australia, the bottle rape, which to me is indicative of some type of sexual sadism that is, it's so over the top and out there. She did not seem to me to present as other sexual assault victims who I had seen over the years. So I would agree with you on that. Also, I've talked about this. My mom counseled sex offenders who got out of prison over the years to try to help them get back into society. And that's the type of things people who are in prison for hardcore rapes do. So I think it was rather... You know what I mean? I maybe I'm getting too far into the weeds here, but that is some hardcore.
I agree with you.
That is, that's the kind of stuff my mom, I remember her.
Yeah, it would be a very advanced sexual predator. It would not be someone that started out and that was their first sexual assault. And you're right. I mean, we've had cases, where people have been raped with objects, and that is somebody that's very far advanced in that pathology, and plus just she could not explain, the fact he had his cast on. The evidence wasn't there. There wasn't anything that indicated it happened the way she said. Even the location was wrong. And she did not show the trauma that I've seen with sexual assault victims. And you're right about the perpetrators. There's no possible way that somebody would just wake up at age 58 and commit that kind of crime. It never happened.
Exactly, and I know in discussing, obviously, ethically speaking, counselors and therapists, things like that, can't opine on these types of things. But these are things that my mom and I have discussed many times over the years. And when I told her about this, we had a discussion about it. And those are the types of things that people do to torture victims and to put themselves in a position of power over their victims. Let's talk now. I want to know how you got involved in this case. I read an article in the Daily Mail saying that Johnny Depp actually saw you in Making a Murderer 2, and that's how you came to become a part of this team. Is that right?
Well, I guess that's what happened. He called me. He left a voicemail at my office, and we couldn't really believe it was Johnny Depp that called, but it sounded like him, and he left a phone number and just said he wanted to talk to me. So that was at the end of December, and I was supposed to start a first-degree murder case in January, which I explained to him. It was interesting to me why he reached out to me, and it was indicative to me of the fact that he was innocent, because he said, I saw in Making a Murderer where you said that you'd be the last person someone would hire if they were guilty, because you would find out about it. And that, I was very struck with that that's what motivated him to contact me. But his trial team was excellent, and they really had their entire plan in place at the point I came in. So I provided moral support for him, and also just, the fact that, her story was not believable, looking at it as a criminal lawyer. And, I really enjoyed getting to know him and having conversations with him. I think we all believed in him. We all believed that he could prevail and that he would be able to tell the story and win the jury over. It was an amazing experience, but I did come in right at the end.
You're saying you were providing moral support. He contacted you, so you have a relationship with him. Is Johnny Depp, is what we saw on the stand Johnny Depp? Because a lot of people tried to say, well, he's an actor. He was doing this. I read something in the a New York Post opinion piece where they were saying, give him an Oscar already. Your thoughts on comments like that, and did we see the real Johnny Depp?
Yes, you did see the real Johnny Depp. He's exactly the way he presented himself. His speech pattern is exactly that's the way he speaks. He's very thoughtful. He speaks very slowly. He thinks about everything that he says. None of that was acting. That is who he is. And he never varies from that. I found him to be just a very humble and sincere person, and probably one of the most unpretentious people I've ever met in my life. He's the real deal. That is the person that he is. That's not an act.
Well, that's really interesting to me. What would you like? You said he's not pretentious. I'm wondering, and I don't want to violate any confidences because he is technically a client, sort of, since you're an advisor, a consultant. He had said when he first got on the stand, he was doing this because of his children. Is there anything you can share with us about that motivation for him?
I do. I believe everything that he said on the stand was sincere. I do believe, what he stated is exactly how he felt, that he was very concerned about his legacy and rectifying this horrible lie that had been told about him. I think the great thing about his testimony is the trial team really brought out all of his thoughts about this. I thought they did a wonderful job. of letting him, and I think that was Jessica Myers that did the direct.
Yes.
She did a wonderful job of just letting him explain himself. That's the way, if you were sitting with him today, that's exactly what he would tell you. He never varies. He doesn't contradict himself. He doesn't tell different stories. He's just a truth teller. So I'm so happy for him. He's been reborn.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you on that. And I don't know Johnny Depp, obviously, but I remember seeing him the first day of the trial. There's a TikTok video that they put together at the network of me saying, hey, I'm here and I'm doing this. And they it goes to a shot of him in the courtroom. And he looked very concerned, and he had come into the courtroom and kind of greeted his legal team and smiled, but this kind of a bewildered look on his face. But then we saw that lift. I don't know if you noticed that, but I saw a change throughout the course of this trial, and he seemed to really get kind of a spring in his step, if you would, or almost like he got his mojo back. Did you kind of notice that change?
Yes, absolutely. That's very perceptive. You notice that because I felt that he definitely gained all of his energy back, and I think belief in the justice system. I think the UK trial, was really a travesty, and a lot of the evidence wasn't evaluated. So yes, I think it just, it was like he emerged with a huge weight lifted off of him.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed that, and I think maybe some other people did too. Well, Kathleen Zellner, thank you so much for coming on such short notice again. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and this is really a great victory for Johnny Depp. And just so our viewers know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say for this trial team, because this team, Ben Chu and Camille Vasquez, and Jessica Myers and all of them, this is a great legal victory. They absolutely believed in him. They put their heart and souls into this thing. So they need to be commended for carrying this case through to the conclusion. So they should be applauded.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought they all did an amazing job. Jessica Myers, I think she's kind of been in the background, but she did an amazing job with his direct and redirect in both the case in chief. It was like she was almost like a therapist, just not a therapist, but she had this calming, cool,
it was perfect.
Not cool, but yes, exactly. Yes. And I thought it was really good. And Camille Vasquez did an amazing job, of course. I know you've tweeted about her. Just an aside, and we're going to have to sign you off, Kathleen, but thank you again for coming on. We hope you'll come on another time. But Johnny Depp, as far as the justice system goes, people might not remember this. West Memphis 3. Johnny Depp came out in support of the West Memphis 3. So the justice system and issues with the justice system are things that he's been concerned about for a long time.
Yes, and he even offered to, and I took him up on it, to write a letter to Stephen Avery from the Making a Murderer series. So yes, he's pretty remarkable, and he definitely identifies with the average person, and like I said, he's just humble. So it's a great day for him.
Great. Well, again, Kathleen Zellner, thank you again so much, and good luck with that upcoming murder trial. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more on this verdict, and we'll be joined by Mike Korobonics and Mitra Ahorian. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you are watching the afternoon session on Law and Crime, live from the Fairfax County Courthouse in Virginia.